Communist and Queer, The Mattachine Society, a senior division documentary by Wes Allen, Arwen Vandenberg, and Andrew Rowe. Are homophiles a security risk? This question circulated society during the Red Scare of the 1950s, influencing government and military agencies and their policies. During this period, which would later be known as the Lavender Scare, many gay men and women were fired from their government jobs under the belief that they were security risks due to being homophiles. The lack of emotional stability, which is found in most sex perverts, and the weakness of their moral fiber makes them susceptible to the blandishments of a foreign espionage agent, said a Senate committee tasked with determining whether homophiles should be allowed to have government jobs. In simple terms, the government was scared of gay people being blackmailed into being communist spies. One gay man, named Harry Hay, was coincidentally a communist. He agreed with Marxist ideals and formed the Mattachine Society with other communist homophiles. The society was named after medieval dancers who satirized social conventions while wearing masks, something that resonated for gay men who had to hide their sexuality. Hay was an interesting figure even before he founded the Mattachine Society. Growing up in California, he married a woman to hide that he was gay. When she found out, he went to the Communist Party and asked them to fire him. Ironically, in the party, homophiles were viewed as security risks, just like in the government. Now, out of the Communist Party, he was able to focus all of his efforts on the Mattachine Society with his co-founders, Dale Jennings and Rudy Gernrich. Jennings faced arrest on charges of homosexuality, but was helped in court by the Mattachine, and Geinrich was a refugee from Nazi Germany. The society was structured very similarly to the Communist Party, with 5 levels and secretive cells. Due to their communist and secretive nature, their organization created suspicion, which made them targets if they were ever exposed to the government. For as long as the Mattachine Society had been around, so had FBI cases focused on them. The FBI cases started May 21, 1953, when the FBI began studying the One magazine articles posted by a group that had split from the Mattachine Society. After a year, articles spread, finding their ways to Europe and Asia, even parts of Africa. Most research into the Mattachine Society from the FBI surrounded One magazine, as it was the easiest way to gain information. The FBI noted that the publication was, quote, written for sex deviants, taking and analyzing the different articles sent out by One magazine. With One magazine being the Mattachine Society's only source of public appearance, rising tension and fear of being exposed caused a debate among members centered around the group's secretive structure. While the communist cell structure did work, it restricted the group because it did not confront the hope of one day being an openly homosexual man or woman without fear of retaliation, and prevented members from gathering with others like them. With this debate came a divide between the desire to be open about the group. Newer, more energetic, and idealistic members wanted to be open, have a consistent public presence with protests and activism. The original leaders wanted to stay in secret, but were overruled by a majority and were forced to resign and leave the group altogether. As the Lavender Scare progressed, the fear of queers and communists grew even more prevalent in the public and the government. The Mattachine Society experienced a change in leadership as Harry Hay, dedicated leader and co-founder, was forced to step down and leave the group he had founded in 1953. The change in leadership was a result of the aforementioned debate about the Mattachine Society's secretive cell structure. The cell structure was enforced by past leaders in hopes to protect members' identities. They hoped that in the case that one cell ever got identified and interrogated, other members would be safe and shielded from the fallout. Due to this, however, many queer folks could not connect to large groups of people like them, leaving them feeling isolated and willing to do potentially risky things, like go to secret gay bars that police frequently raided. The newer, more conservative members of the society and the older communist founders had many debates over the aspects of the society, but the one thing they could not agree on was whether to be public or secret. It was clear to both sides that one side would have to back down. The new leaders claimed that in a show of grace, Harry Hay stepped down as leader and left the Mattachine Society altogether, but Hay was forced out. The new leadership forced the other original communist co-founders and communist members to leave as well, or to subscribe to the new ideals of the society and denounce communism if they wanted to stay. This shift in leadership came with a change in the main focuses of the Mattachine Society. The original core beliefs of the society were that homosexuals were an oppressed minority and were not psychologically disturbed or perverted. Along with this, the Mattachine Society did not believe that homosexuals should have to conform to society's standards for men and women to be deserving of rights. Under a new leader, the new ideals that were pushed were in direct contrast to the original ideas. New leaders Hal Call, Ken Burns, and Don Lucas were more conservative. They promoted the idea that homosexuals should conform to society's idea for men and women, as well as the idea that homosexuals were mentally disturbed and deserving of pity. They did not confirm whether they truly believed in these ideals or if they were a method of trying to gain the favor of the public with a less radical approach. Under new leaders, the society did become more public in their leadership and meetings, but members' identities were still somewhat protected. The original foundation was not without flaws. They excluded trans individuals and women, as well as making secrecy their highest priority instead of activism being the main focus of their group. The new leaders were vocal and open about being homosexual and proud, performing more protests, such as sit-ins in bars to protest the New York law that homophiles could not be served alcohol. With the Mattachine split, the Mattachine Society supported the group that had broken off and formed One Magazine, a publication they could still use to raise awareness and educate. Los Angeles Postmaster Otto K. Olson ordered Federal Postal Services to stop shipping out One Magazine, calling it obscene, lewd, lascivious, and filthy. One Magazine sued the postmaster, stating it violated the First and 14th Amendments. The lower courts, of course, voted in favor of the postmaster, so One Magazine petitioned the Supreme Court, and so the case that was Roth versus the United States was born. The court ruled in favor of Roth, defining homosexual topics as not obscene. This case was the first Supreme Court case addressing homosexual free speech and marked a more confrontational Mattachine society, one that fought against the systems that sought to silence them. Society changed after the Stonewall riots of 1969, one of the largest gay rights riots in American history. However, Stonewall and gay rights today would not have been possible without early homophile organizations and activism such as that of the Mattachine Society. The Mattachine Society is a key point in talking about the homophile movement and gay rights pre-Stonewall. The Mattachine and One Magazine forced society to look directly at the gay people they so happily oppressed and ignored, and, while sometimes ineffective, exposing society to the existence of gay people helped further gay rights. The original leader and co-founder, Harry Hay, created the idea of gay rights activism. The split between the radical founder and the new, more conformist leaders marked the creation of a new Mattachine society, one that would pursue gay rights more avidly through activism and exposure. The new society was more effective in reaching societal acceptance for gay people, but the original communist leaders and ideals paved the way. The Mattachine Society redefined gay activism and set a high precedent for gay activists in the following years, setting the stage for the fight for rights to come.